So when I started training, I used to wonder why I wasn't losing fat. I was tracking my workouts consistently, I was going to the gym consistently, and I was watching what I ate. But for some reason, my results would always stall. I would always have that last bit of fat that I wanted off my stomach not going. It was just there, and I was just going crazy over it, wondering to myself, why on earth am I not losing this last bit of fat? It's only until I started reading more about nutrition and studying it that I started to learn more about calories, and this is when I realized the mistakes that I was making. So in this video today, I'm going to be sharing with you guys 5 foods that I was consistently eating that kept me from my fat loss goals, and you could be doing the same mistake. So let's talk about it. The first food that we're going to look at is dried fruits. Now this may be a surprise to most people because fruits are considered to be healthy. But when you really look into dried fruits, there are lots of things that are added into them to preserve them. Things such as sugar. Now as soon as you add sugar to any sort of food, you're just bumping up the calories. Let's take a look at this example.
Now what I've done here is compare an apple with raisins. As you can see, 41 grams of raisins, which is just a handful of raisins, is equal to 123 calories. When compared to the apple, you'd have to have 1 whole apple and a half to reach the same amount of calories. Using a different example, we're going to look at a handful of dates, which is equal to 71 grams. Now 71 grams of dates is equal to 197 calories. Now if I want 197 calories from using fresh nachos, I'd have to have 2 large sized nachos. So again, this just shows that having fresh fruits is going to cost you way less calories compared to using dried fruits, and also the sugar content is going to be lower when you're having fresh fruits compared to dried fruits.
So when you're attempting to lose fat, what you want to be eating is foods that are low in calories but are going to keep you satiated for much longer. So when you're having dried fruits, even though they're so nice, you only get to have a handful, a small amount. And the problem with that is you're not going to be full, you're not going to be satiated, and because they're so nice, you're going to be tempted to have even more, and that means you're just going to be consuming more calories. So rather than having dried fruit, you can simply use an alternative and have fresh fruits. This is the exact same thing when you're having nuts. So instead of having nuts such as peanuts or almonds or macadamia nuts, just have peanut butter. Number 1, it's cheaper, and number 2, you can add it to other food sources such as bread. But just be careful also when you're doing that, because that can push your calorie content up. I must say though that nuts such as almonds and Brazil nuts, macadamia nuts, they are very healthy. They've got good healthy sources of fat, but you just don't want to consume too much of it. So you have to be careful when you're having natural nuts such as those. The third food we're going to be looking at is rice. Now again, this may be a surprise to most people because rice is considered to be healthy, and I do agree with that. It's quite common in most households, and I encourage anyone who does resistance training to use rice as a source of carbohydrates. But the problem with rice is that you can easily overconsume it if you're not, number 1, weighing it, or number 2, using portion control. So let's look at a client of mine who was having way too much rice. Now as you can see, when you look at her plate, you can see that there is just too much rice on this plate, and then there is not enough balance of protein, veggies and fats. Now the easiest way to control the amount of rice that you're having is either using a scale or using portion control, using cups to measure how much rice you're having. So a good idea is to always have 1/4 of your plate filled with rice, and then the other quarter is filled with vegetables, proteins and a little bit of fat. Now as you can see, it's quite easy to overconsume rice. If you overconsume rice and you are not someone who's active, so you have a day job, you're pretty much sedentary, what your body's going to do is it's going to process that rice, change it into glucose, and then just store it as fat. And then your weight loss goals are going to be stored.
Now this is probably the easiest way to overconsume your calories, and I used to do this basically every day. Every day I used to come to McDonald's and I would buy a cappuccino. Yes, please.
So back in the day when I was still working in construction, so I had a day job, I would always, before going to the office or before going to site, I would come by to McDonald's and buy myself a cappuccino. Now I don't do that anymore because I'm self-employed, and well, times are tough. But looking back now, I was doing this every single day, 5 days a week, so every single work day, sorry. And sometimes I would even do it twice. So I'd come in the morning, and then also after work in the evening I'll come and buy myself another cappuccino. And a cappuccino is about 250 calories. Now when we look back, it's actually quite concerning, because I was consuming about an excess of 1,000 calories a week just from cappuccinos. So if you're someone who likes to have a cappuccino, I know my sister loves cappuccino, so if you're someone who loves to have flavored beverages such as a cappuccino or a latte, whatever, just keep in mind that these come with extra calories. So if you're struggling again to lose that last bit of fat on your stomach or on your arms or on your thighs, on your bum, I'm not complaining about the bum, ladies, but if you are struggling then it could be because of this. Could be because you're over consuming on cappuccinos or flavored beverages. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing, again, because if you like them, you like them. Doesn't mean that you should stop, but it's just important to be aware and just to understand that you need to dial in your eating plan to ensure that you're putting this to your eating plan and that you're not over consuming at the end of the week. Anyways, that's good. The fifth food shouldn't even be a surprise to most people, and that's added table sugar. Now using sugar is quite common again in most households. People are going to use sugar in either their tea or their coffee, or if you have a sweet tooth like me, you also add it onto your cereal. But the problem again with adding sugar is just that it's going to boost up your calories, and it's calories that you don't require. Now if we look at this example, 1 teaspoon of sugar is equal to 16 calories. Now if you have a sweet tooth, you can change from eating table sugar and start using 0-calorie stevia. Now if we look at this example again, 1 teaspoon of table sugar is equal to 16 calories. Now in order for me to match that amount using stevia, I would have to have 32 sachets. I didn't even have 32. I think there's only 20 there. So it just shows you how much stevia you have to use to get the same calorie content as when you're using 1 teaspoon of sugar. Now if you're adding sugar to your coffee, your tea, or even some of your meals, you're just adding way too many calories throughout the day. You can find yourself having 60-70 calories worth of sugar. Now a better alternative again is just using stevia. It's just as sweet, but it doesn't contain as much calories. Right, so in conclusion guys, it is very important to understand that no foods are good or bad. We should not be categorizing foods as good or bad. That's just gonna drive you mad. I used to do that stupid stuff. But what we should be thinking of is making conscious decisions of what we are putting into our bodies. So if you're someone who is trying to lose weight, but you find that you're not losing that last bit of fat, or you're not losing fat at all, your weight is just not going down, then you could probably be making the same mistakes, such as eating peanuts or eating dried fruits or over consuming sugar. So what you can do is just find better alternatives, like I've illustrated in this video. So that's going to be the end of it. Thank you again guys for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.